investors are looking for a good bet as to where their money might actually make money.
Yeah.
And they're looking at New York City going, it's out of control right now.
It's dangerous. I trust cash very much, so I'd like to talk a bit about that. So what subject are we going to transition to, my friend?
Well, there's interesting things that are going on as far as money being pulled out of New York City.
Yes.
And we've got some interesting things that are happening. I've got about 3 different reports on this and what's happening in the US that you're probably not hearing in the mainstream. I've got some video footage to play now that I'd like us to have a look at. Where are investors taking their money?
After yesterday's ruling, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want 38 convictions or 34 convictions. I don't want 7 years, something I did 7 years ago, to be a problem today.
Do you know of any other investors, real estate or otherwise, who are pulling out of New York and New York State?
I have 15,000 investors with me at Cardone Capital. We've raised $1.3 billion. If I went to them today and said, I want to invest in New York City, they would not give me money to do that. We had $500 million to invest in New York City this year. We have since reallocated that money to Florida real estate. New York City is...
You don't trust the legal system in New York? You don't trust the politics here? Is that it?
Well, you already... As many great things that are going on in New York City, you just have too many other risks that as a fiduciary of other people's money, I can't raise the rents. I can't evict. I cannot predict the taxes. We're going to reward people. I literally might be required to provide housing to illegal people. I can't collect the rents, and I can't get them out of the property. I can't call the police to actually do anything when there's a crime on the property. If I can't collect my rents, I don't know what my expenses are going to be. Why would I do business there?
So there you go. You see the management of risk there to investors, and they're starting to look at this and go, well, where is my money better parked due to the risks happening? And these are all political issues that they're talking about.
They are.
This is always our point, is that politics influences money, investments, economy. Investors are looking for a good bet as to where their money might actually make money.
Yeah.
And they're looking at New York City going, it's out of control right now.
It's dangerous. I mean, honestly, it's a dangerous investment. And if you were going to make a dangerous investment, you've got to know there's higher risk, and therefore it should be a higher return. The return hasn't changed.
No.
The risk has gone
the return's zero.
Yeah.
The return is it's negative, because let's have a look at, he's talking about property investments there straight off the bat. So first of all, you've got the capital gains. Here's one way to earn money on it. You've got the rental returns and any modifications and stuff like that. So you really only have 2 sources of income besides the tax deductions. So they've literally said they can't evict people for not paying rent. Okay. So why pay rent? If you're not getting kicked out, why pay rent? So first of all, your investments, and we're probably talking anywhere between $200,000 to $500,000 here, and you're getting zero return on the rental value of that house.
Sure, this is New York. You'd be paying more.
Well, whatever it is,
200,000 to 500,000, and I'm not saying this to be funny. This is actually the prices. 200,000 to 500,000 is a car park, maybe a parking space.
So what? 1 million per house?
Oh, no, you wouldn't even. A million bucks might get you a tent. Like we're talking like many millions of dollars to buy something. Yeah.
Okay, and then you can't charge rent.
Yeah.
So why the hell would anyone in their right mind even look at a place in New York? So as a property investor myself, I'm looking at capital gains, rental returns to cover the expenses until I cash out. And if there's no chance to get rental returns, I can't evict people. I can't do repairs. And I can't get money to pay for those repairs, I wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole. If you gave me $5 million, says, right, I want you to go buy something in New York, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I say, keep the money. I'm not, because it's not costing money to maintain that house.
Let me just mention a couple of things that you guys may not be aware of. A lot of New York property, especially the top-end properties, are actually sitting vacant. And the thing... because they don't need to actually get rental money for it. It's just an investment, and you're going to get capital growth over time. But here's the other thing: capital gains tax. I don't want to bore everybody with this, but capital gains tax is actually occurs in the location where you're tax resident at the time. So, for example, if the four of us were crazy and went and bought property in New York and then sold it for a profit, we wouldn't actually pay any capital gains tax to the United States. We would all be paying capital gains tax here in Australia. So if we happen to live in a country where there was no capital gains tax, New Zealand, we wouldn't have to pay any. And there's a lot of countries out there in Asia, won't name them, that have special rules that say, oh, actually, you don't have to pay any capital gains tax here. But if you then set up a subsidiary company and locate it in the United States, you can get the deductions, right? But you don't ever have to pay the capital gains tax. So it's a very manipulated market in the first place, and it's certainly not stable. And the thing is that whatever New York's trying to achieve, all they're doing is they're making it harder for Americans to actually get ahead. And for most Western investors that are coming from similar countries to the United States, don't want to touch New York, because why would you? And even if you, like, I've been saying this for years, and it actually really hurts me to say it because I have such a deep admiration and respect for the United States. But why would you ever set a company up there? What possible reason would you have? People say to me, oh, because it's a really big market. Yeah, it is. Go set the company up in Canada, because you've got the free trade agreement. So if you set your company up in Toronto, you've got easy access to New York. Set the company up in Vancouver, you've got easy access to California. Why on earth, what possible reason would you have to set up a company for an international investor who's not a US citizen, not a US tax resident? Why on earth would you set something up in the United States? Now, I hate saying that because, again, I love that country so much. But what they have done is just destroy whatever it would be that would make them attractive to international investors.
But if you set up in Canada, you've got the issue of
Canadian.
Well, no, you got the issue of Trudeau getting into your bank account or freezing your bank account. There's that issue. You know, this.
No. But that's only for Canadians. That's only for Canadians. Okay. So that's the whole thing. Look at Australia, right? You can look at almost any Western country in the world, and you look at their government and go, "Are you people out of your mind?" But then when you actually look at the rules, it only applies to people who actually live there, to their own citizens, right? If you're not a citizen, oh, please come on in. We'll do whatever you want. We'll have a special sitting of Parliament to pass laws and rules to give you exemptions to the rules we've got, like that ridiculous. The Aboriginal heritage, the moving snake going through the sky and stuff like that. Okay, those people who live in Western Australia, you're going to be subject to that. But if you're a foreign investor, you can get an exemption from that. Did you guys know that?
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
Parliament will actually give you an exemption from it. I mean, all our government does is hurt us, and for what reason, I don't know.
Insane.
It's the same thing in Canada.
Yeah. So bringing it back to the property, like that's all good and all that sort of stuff. But as you're looking at the actual operational costs of it, if you're not getting rent from property and then tenants just damage shit, that's just what they do. There's general wear and tear on every investment property. It doesn't matter where it is. Something will break, a door handle will snap off. So you're going to have all these outlays and you've got no return. So
you've got it also.
If you had an investment where you had to keep putting money into it and you were guaranteed not to get any money back for it, would you buy it?
No. Derek, your thoughts?
Well, I did, but thankfully her and I broke up.
Yeah, exactly. So that just proves the point. Why would, if that's the laws in New York, why would you ever even look at it as a source of income?
Part of the issue here, Travis, is you're looking at property from an Australian perspective and not an American perspective. Americans treat property quite differently over there. They look at it more as a consumable as opposed to an asset.
Right.
Well, they see it as an asset, but it's different. It's different the way they view it. I discovered this when I was doing a US property syndication some years ago. It was not something that they kind of wanted to treasure forever and this sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very different attitude.
Because we've got the castle kind of attitude here, right? Whereas they said it's transition of then when
you know, it's really funny. We've got the castle attitude, but we don't have castle laws. But they've got castle laws in America, but they don't look at it as a castle.
I think it's a lot of it's linked to the way Australians were. You know, if they were prisoners, one of their marks of freedom was that they would be able to own property.
Yes.
And I think that still is in the psyche of Australia.
I think you're absolutely right.
But in America, it's a very different view.
Okay.
I find
that's why. Look, maybe I am. I don't want to come across as being too agitated today because I'm actually not. I'm actually in a good mood. But you brought up the police earlier. I don't understand. I don't understand political strategy, right? Like Albo and the Labor Party are talking about imposing taxes on the family home. Are you serious? Don't touch the family. Australians take so much from you.
Shaq,
Don't take our homes.
Shaq, this is the party of the people of the worker. So what we're doing is, as the worker,
no, they want you to stay as a worker.
Yeah, we're going to tax the family home. We're going to give you death taxes, and we're going to tax your family ute. Like there could not, these socialists of the Australian Labor Party, and each way elbow, right? They could not be any more anti everyday Australian if they tried.
Well, here's an interesting story that's come out from trendingpoliticsnews.com about Trump, what he's proposed. Apparently, there's a rumor going on that on a bustling Thursday in Washington, D.C., former President Donald Trump conveyed with GOP lawmakers at the Capitol Hill Club floating discussions about trade policies that wants to find his tenure in the White House. What they're looking is that he has an advocacy for using tariffs as leverage in international negotiations, and that he might employ them to gain the upper hand over what are referred as bad actors on the global stage. Boil this all down. He's looking at there's a bold proposal apparently in this private gathering that an all tariff policy might be imposed, which would lead to the abolition of the income tax in the United States. So what happens is if you are importing goods from outside of the United States, you're going to pay top dollar for that stuff because a lot of it's loaded up with tariffs. To, of course, increase local production, those tariffs would not be imposed, and they'd offset what they are gaining in that by reducing or get rid of income tax in the United States.
Okay, but then if that has the desired result, right, and then stuff gets made in America again, which is great, jobs and basically people's raising their quality of living. But okay, if you do that, then how are you going to then raise taxes to run the country?
Well, they're doing it on the tariffs.
No, I realize that. But what I'm saying is that, okay, so the tariffs work so well, right? So that all that money coming in of all those imported things stops people from importing, okay? Lowers the imports and then makes people start producing more locally made product, right? Won't that then create a problem that they just don't have enough money to run the country? I love the idea.
America won't be able to produce enough to be able to do everything in-house.
No. I know
I'm going to get flamed by our very right-wing audience, but I'm not some massive lefty. I'm really not. But look, I'm not going to jump on the we all hate Trump bandwagon because I don't hate him. I think that he has been an effective president, but that proposal is completely ludicrous. And not only is it ludicrous, but for the United States being the country that goes around the world talking about free trade to then introduce an indiscriminate tariff, I might get Donald Trump and those those people that go around and they dress up like they're the people that wrote the Constitution. These idiots. Can you just go back and have a look at your own history, please? Can you have a look and see what happened last time when you had tariffs and you're an insular country? Go back and have a look at your beloved Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and talk and have a look at what they were arguing about the foundation of your country. This is not going to work. It's a terrible idea. Don't do it. If there's any place on earth that shouldn't do it, it's the United States.
Well, once upon a time, there was no income tax in the United States, right? It was the companies that paid the taxes.
Yes.
And I think, got to look at those models once again.
But once upon a time, you could marry a 12-year-old too. That doesn't mean that because they did it back then, it was a good idea.
That's ludicrous to compare that to that. That's just ludicrous. I'm calling you out on that.
Some Arabic countries still do
it. But hang on, Derek. You're going to say, okay, well, once upon a time, 250 years ago, they didn't have income tax. You're correct, they didn't. But it's very easy for us. And again, I know why people are saying, "Oh, Shaq, we thought you were sort of a right-wing person. Now you're such a lefty." But just be reasonable here, okay? We all have the luxury of living in a country that if we get sick or we break our leg or something like that, we're going to get our health care. We know that our kids can go to school and be indoctrinated, or we can homeschool them and get some level of government funding, right? We know that our roads are going to be made, all that sort of stuff. That's not the situation that the United States was in all those years ago, a couple of centuries ago. So look, I agree with you. I don't like paying tax. I don't think anybody does. But to suggest that because they didn't pay tax before, what they should do is to come up with indirect taxes, I'm all for it. I totally agree that they should have indirect taxation. But to suggest that they should do it by tariffs, it doesn't work. It didn't work for them before. It's not going to work for them now. And Donald Trump knows better. And in my opinion, what he's doing is he's trying to appeal to his base, knowing that it's not going to work.
Look, let's be honest, okay? He didn't say it publicly. It was, it was leaked, right? Okay. This
Of
is
course it was
politics, right? He never has an intention of doing that. He has an intention of widening up and shoring up his base. That's what that's all about. Having said that, I actually agree with Derek on this one from the point of view of we need to explore other ideas, okay? Because currently what's happening is not working, right?
So you need to look at I want to jump in on this one. So first of all, we hire people for one of the Lions contracts now.
Sure.
So if someone is paying less taxes than I am as a business owner, why would I have a business in the first place? It's just stupid. I'd wrap up because there's no point. I'm already paying enough public liability insurances, superannuation. There's all those other things with hiring someone. It's just not worth it. So the second thing is, if you really want to talk about, and I'm talking Australia here, not America, have you seen how little tax the major mining companies are actually paying for our resources right now? If you look purely at gas, we are the #1 producer in gas. We earn something like 2% of what Saudi Arabia and those other oil producing gas companies do. So why? That's the place where we need to look at fixing up our tax brackets, our royalties and all that sort of stuff, because the government is giving away our resources for free. We are not getting any money for it. Now, the government didn't ask, well, they kind of did, but at no point did they put it to, hey, do you want to give away all our resources for free to these major corporations? No, they just went in and made the laws. But the thing is, no one's actually talking about it, so no one's actually bringing these issues up. There was something like $400 billion that we missed out on revenue from the tax things. There's a dude on YouTube, he's called the Aussie Puntant. Really good information, great figures there, and that he really goes right down into it. Went to go to the Santos convention, got kicked out because he's not one of them. Right. So this is where all the politicians, Peter Dutton was in there, Albanese was in there, like all the major politicians were there. But the bit that really shits me on this one, this is what we really need to crack down onto. Who's Mark McGowan working for now?
Yeah.
BHP, Rio Tinto as well. You have a look at all these people that were making these laws and agreements with the mining companies. Have a look who they work for now.
Of course they do.
They're consultants.
I don't know why we take it. Like, we know how corrupted our political system is. Why do we put up with this? I don't get it.
I can answer it. Derek's gonna love this one. The greatest trick Satan ever pulled was convincing people he didn't exist. So the greatest trick that the politicians pulled is convincing people that politics don't matter.
Let me just say a couple of things on this tax issue, because I think there's an important point here. So when the sort of moderate, maybe slightly lefty Turnbull said what we should do is increase the GST to 15% and to decrease income taxes, he was shot down by both sides of politics. When Julia Gillard talked about having a super mining tax, she was shot down by both sides of politics. But here's the thing. A lot of people say to me, because I travel to the Middle East, and they say, oh, Shaq, it's not that you're anti-government, you're just greedy. You just don't want to pay taxes. Well, when people look at those Middle Eastern countries and say there's no taxes over there, just remember the tax rates there are actually really high if you're in energy or oil exploration. Right now, I remember I was looking at this particular mine site in Indonesia, and the deal was, we met with the president over there, and the deal was, if you guys can develop this site, it's going to cost you a certain amount of money. If you guys can develop this site, you can recover everything that you've put into it, right? You can recover all the money you put in. Once you've done that, we want half. You can have half, and out of your half, you've got to pay for all your running costs and everything else, but we want half because this is the national resource that belongs to the people. I think that's actually pretty good. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. But what are we doing here in Australia? We're going to sit there and say to someone who's a nurse, hey, if you go and do overtime, right, because you're trying to, I'm talking from the heart here because my mother's a nurse, you want to work overtime because you want to put your child through private school, what we're going to do is when you're doing those extra shifts, we're going to charge you a higher level of tax because, you can afford it. Meanwhile, I'll just remind everybody that, I think last time I was on or the time before that we have Australians right now who are lonely, who don't have any company, who are actually skipping meals in order to feed their pet cats and dogs because that's the only companionship they've got. It's an absolute disgrace.
You are wrong, Shaq. They do help someone. They help other politicians. They help their politicians. They help keep. They basically all they're doing is funding their own careers because this is what the lobbying groups are doing, making sure that they stay in play. Now,
where's our lobby?
want to talk about these subjects that are coming up from our listeners and watchers.
Deployable. I like this guy. Tax mining industries to subsidize manufacturing. The most pro-tax comment I've made. Some of the other comments that he makes are golden.
Should I leave? Should I leave now? Should I leave now, boys? I feel like I've turned our audience left.
Oh, you have the right to remain silent. Please use it.
You know what, Shaq? You should run as the VP for America.
No. You have to put a skirt on first, though.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll put a skirt on. But I don't think that I could. I don't quite think I could pull off the Kamala laugh. But you know what? I do actually. I just want to bring something up if I can. I know I've been making like jokes about being left or right. I just want to tell you where I'm coming from. I don't like big corporations, right? And that sounds a bit counterintuitive because I trade big corporations in the stock market and make shitloads of money doing it. But what I really don't like is the way that they have the ability to influence and manipulate government in such a way that it makes our lives more difficult. I don't like that. I think it's wrong. Now, once upon a time, that put me on the left. Now, all of a sudden, that puts me on the right. I haven't changed that much. I still don't like big corporations. It is totally beyond me why, like, when we were growing up, we're all roughly the same age, right? When we were growing up, if you wanted to be a rebel, I grew my hair long. When I finished at private school, I grew my hair long. Maybe you get an earring. Now, and what you'd do is you'd rebel against authority. It didn't matter who was in charge because we didn't really understand who was in charge and we didn't really understand left-right politics. It's just, if you're authority, we're going to rebel against you. Now we've got a generation of people that say to their parents, guess what? I'm a rebel. And I'm such a rebel that I'm going to be obedient to government.
Yeah, rebellion certainly changed, right? Honestly, yeah. Now right wing, okay, people or centre right people are seen as these extremists because they've got conservative ideas like, I don't know, having a family, or that men are men and women are women.